All right, today I'm excited to welcome Jason Barnard to the show. Jason, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing jolly well, thank you, Brian.
Awesome. We hooked up on Podmatch, either matched or messaged, and I looked at your profile and I was like, this is a perfect story for the show because we like to talk about the twists and turns that people take to get to where they're at. But to set things off at the beginning, I like to have the guests introduce themselves, who they are, what they got going on now, and then we'll go back and figure out how you got there. So take it away, introduce yourself, let people know who you are, and then we'll see how you got there.
Right, yeah, brilliant, wonderful. Well, I'm Jason Barnard, and you could call me the Google Whisperer or the AI Whisperer, because my special talent in Kalicube, my company, our special talent is to ensure that Google and AI represent you correctly the way you want when they cite your name. So if somebody searches your name on Google or ChatGPT or Perplexity, we ensure that they say really good things about you and they focus on the right aspect of your life, especially when somebody's done multiple career pivots like I have. That's actually quite a tough ask. And we also ensure that they big you up.
Okay.
They make you look like a superstar. So if you search my name, Jason Barnard, JasonBarnard, you will see that I look like some kind of superstar, as famous as Richard Branson. But obviously I'm not. But I've managed to convince the machines, Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Bing Copilot, that I'm much more important and much more famous than I truly am.
That's really interesting. I have a little side hustle where I sell plant roots and things, and so I made a standalone website for it. I was digging into how Google works and this and that, and basically I read a blurb about people don't go to websites anymore; they just search in Google, and the AI bot at the top gives you a lot of what you need right off the bat if you're asking a question.
Yeah.
But that pulls directly from the context of your websites, and I was like, so I could tell it whatever I want. I'm getting the page views without getting the clicks, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting the page views without getting the clicks because you've educated the machine.
Right.
And anybody who doesn't educate the machine doesn't even get the page views without the clicks. But it isn't as simple as saying, well, I publish whatever I want and the machine will spit it out.
Right.
The machine isn't that stupid, and it has a necessity to always best serve the user. So it's going to tend to be very cautious. So whatever you say on your website, which we call the entity home website, which we can explain later, has to be corroborated around the web. You have to manage your digital footprint so that everybody else confirms what you're saying. At that point, you gain the trust of the machine and what you said becomes true. It's true for me, it won't be true for you.
Right.
But gaining its trust is a bit like gaining the trust of a child.
Okay.
You gain its trust and you can feed it information, but you can only gain its trust by being consistently honest and helpful to the child in terms of what it's trying to understand and what it's trying to, how it's trying to help its users. And I'll give you a really good example, which is interesting, is I was a musician. We can talk about that later.
Right.
But I still play music, and I'm a double bass player, full fiddle. But I want to play the guitar, so I can just sing and play the guitar. So I was looking at amplifiers, and then I realized by asking ChatGPT that I can use my double bass amplifier for the guitar, but my only problem will be that the bass sound of the amplifier is going to tend to dominate, and that doesn't sound great for a guitar. So ChatGPT, I said, well, what can I do to solve that problem? It said, get yourself an equalizer and a compressor and a delay. And I said, well, I don't want to buy 4 pedals for effects. Which ones do I really need? And it said, well, if you have to choose, get the equalizer, which will take the bass off, and the delay, which will give it more breadth.
Okay.
So I didn't research. I didn't go to an influencer who was testing out all these pedals. I just asked ChatGPT, and it said reasoning and then came up with the answer. And I made my purchase decision literally 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Based on my conversation with ChatGPT, and I did not visit one single website.
So this is a selfish question, and then we'll dive into the journey. But what is that do for the future of, say, affiliate relationships for creators that have made a niche making recommendations?
Well, in terms of affiliate recommendations, if you have nothing to offer in terms of personality and human contact, you're probably going to fail.
Right.
And I think and we can come to Kalicube now, this is the Kalicube process. And I recommend that anybody interested in how they present their company or their person online downloads kalicube.com, kalicube.com/guides.
I'll get that in the description too. If anybody was trying to furiously write that down, it'll be in the description all over the place.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. But it's a 60-page guide, one for corporations, one for people, that describes exactly what we do for our clients at Kalicube. And you need to take control. And you need to take control of how they understand who you are, what you do, and who you serve, why you're a credible solution, and what all the details of your solution are. And effectively, what you do is rebuild the funnel in the brains of these machines, which is what I did earlier on by researching and comparing and asking for advice. And as a marketing strategy, that's hugely important because I use ChatGPT as the ultimate influencer, an unbiased influencer that I trust.
Right.
And once again, I bought $200 worth of material of pedals and cables based purely on what ChatGPT told me.
Off a three question conversation.
Yeah, I actually went to 10 conversations.
Well,
I got a bit geeky.
I mean,
you can't help it though, can you?
Right. Oh, I finished in February. I had been immersed in ChatGPT a little bit, but I took a friend had a challenge, a daily challenge, learning how to use it more effectively. Blew my mind. I thought I knew what I was doing until like the third day of this, and it was made for beginners. And now I'm taking the second round of it just because I want to go back and it's fascinating. It's such a rabbit hole to go down.
What I find really interesting there is ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Copilot can be used from two perspectives. Number one is I train it, and use it to create content for myself or to inform, or to help me improve my work process. And the other is I use it to research. So Google is all about search. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot are all about research. So my activity of this afternoon was all about research. And if I'd done it on Google, it would have taken me hours. Right. And I would have been unsure about the answers.
Right.
And I would, as you said, have probably gone to an influencer, but there'd be one influencer for the compressor pedal and another influencer for the reverb pedal, another influencer for the EQ pedal, but none of them would have been able to tell me what the best combination is.
Right, because they're all niched into their specific type of product.
Yeah, and none of them will have been dealing with somebody who wants to play a guitar for a bass amp.
Right. Right.
So I would never have found that information, but ChatGPT was able to say, well, actually, playing a guitar through a bass amp only has one problem, and that's the fact that it's going to emphasize the bass. You're not going to break the bass amp, which is what I was afraid of.
Well, and doing the what we've been instructed as affiliates and creators to, search the web and see what people are searching and what questions are out there and answer popular questions. Well, that probably isn't the most popular question out there, where somebody's going, man, I'm really going to have some long tail search on this question.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so that particular question, you're probably only ever going to get me or maybe 3 people in the next 10 years. So it's not worth creating a video and figuring that out.
That'd be what I would make a video about, because I'm just not good like that. But anyway,
but sorry, that idea of niche conversations is really important, because you look at an influencer, say 500,000 followers, that's a huge influencer. These machines are having trillions of niche conversations with billions of people every day, and we trust them. So my niche conversation would never have been answered by any influencer, as you said, which is mind-blowing.
Right. The scale of things, when you start digging into it, it's unbelievable. And you start looking at numbers and asking it questions about its numbers and its resources and how. blows my mind. So,
and that's extreme long tail that nobody would ever imagine, as you said. So it
wouldn't be worth the time to do it.
No, and it's a new demand that didn't exist before.
Right.
Because I wouldn't even tried that on Google. Sorry, go ahead.
So you've been a Google and an AI guy from a childhood, right? I assume we both are a little longer in the years, I think, but I know that it wasn't around when I was a kid. What did you want to be when you were a kid, Jason?
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. It depends on what age. I think that's true for everybody. When I was a very small child, I just wanted to be a footballer or a soccer player.
Nice.
Then I went into big school, which what I called it big school at 11 years old, and realized that in the academic world was just boring, and I found it relatively easy, but not interesting. And so by the time I left at 18 years old, I had started to be interested in music, got my father to buy me my first electric guitar when I was 18 for my 18th birthday, and looked at the world and thought, well, the only thing I know is I don't want to go to university. I want to stop academic work. I just want to get a job. And I went and got a job, and it was a job as a salesman on commission only. And I was really bad at selling.
I was going to say that could go either way.
Yeah. And so after 3 months, I thought, well, actually, the academic world is better than this. Real work is terrible, and I don't even get paid for it. If I go to university, at least, I can sit around doing nothing, pretending to work.
And it's acceptable.
And it's acceptable, yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So I went and studied economics. I did an economics degree with a first in statistical analysis at Liverpool John Moores University. Incidentally, John Lennon went.
Was that something that was curiosity of yours, or did you just randomly pick that?
I picked it because it was the easiest subject for me when I was 18, was economics and maths.
And I went right over. You said that's the same school that John Lennon went to, which is interesting because before this interview, I was listening to his son, some of his music of his son. So that's
right.
I don't know if Google read your profile and fed that into my search this morning, but
yeah. But, well, one interesting thing about that is that I played a game with Google, and I got myself put next to John Lennon as alumni of Liverpool John Moores University in Google results.
Nice.
And that was my challenge, and it took me a year to get there.
Nice.
But it said John Lennon, Jason Barnard. I thought that was really cool.
What? So did you end up getting your degree in economics and
Yep.
go on from there? Did you use your degree when you got out, or was it just a placeholder to figure out something else?
Yeah, I applied for a job doing statistical analysis for Littlewoods Pools, which is a company that does soccer score betting system in the UK. And I flunked it completely. I flunked it really badly. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I didn't really want the job, to be honest. So I moved to Paris in France. And I'd been in a band in Liverpool, and we played the Cavern Club, which is really cool as well. So John Lennon and I have a lot in common, the Cavern Club and our university.
Right.
And when I moved to Paris, I didn't get a job. I joined a band playing in the street, busking. And they said to me, do you want to join our band? I said, yeah, absolutely. I'm a singer. I can play some guitar. And they said, oh, we need a double bass player. So I said, well, I'll buy a double bass and I'll learn to play it. And then I can play with you. He said, well, within 30 days, we have a gig. If you can play that gig and you don't look too ridiculous, you're in the band. So I learned to play double bass in 30 days, played the gig. I wasn't very good, but I was good enough and I was in the band. And that was a 10-year career playing punk folk music on the double bass.
I looked up your band. Okay, so your band. Well, I went to the band's website. It wasn't loading.
No, it broke. We messed it up. Shame on us.
I was digging a little bit more and reading a little bit. How was it? How was the experience? You got some traction in Europe quite a bit. Was there much traction in the US?
No, none in the US. Nobody in the US have any idea who we are. We sold about 40,000 albums. We played in front of at least 100,000 people. We supported Bob Dylan. We supported Captain Sensible from The Damned. And I can't remember the name of the singer from Black Flag. We supported them as well.
Henry Rollins.
Henry Rollins, we supported him. Nice. And the Pogues, who were famous, Shane MacGowan. So we supported a lot of my heroes. And that was wonderful.
I was going to say, that must have been great.
Amazing. And even if I didn't meet Bob Dylan, I knew he was in the dressing room 2 doors down from me. That's cool. That's so cool. I met Captain Sensible, but he refused to talk to me because he had measles.
I think being on the stage in front of people that are coming to see someone like that, and if you get any traction with those people, you gotta feel that their taste in music is pretty good.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, and one thing is, people talk to me about getting nervous getting on stage. I've never had that problem. So I got on stage in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people, and it didn't make me more nervous than 2 or 3 people, which I really appreciate. And it really serves me well today because I do public speaking, and I recently spoke at a couple of conferences. We recorded the videos, and today, if you say where do you feel most comfortable? The answer is on stage talking or on stage playing music. Those are the places I feel most comfortable: on stage, music, or speaking.
So 10 years in the band and touring and all that, what happened that the band broke up?
Everybody left except me. So I ended up on my own with my double bass, and I thought, well, I can't carry on this music career with the double bass.
What did you decide to do?
I actually got some other groups and signed them up for publishing and record deals with EMI and Warner Chappell. So I moved into the business side of music for 3 or 4 years.
And is that's something that you did along with being in the band? Were you doing that for your own band and gain experience and decided to do it for others?
Yeah, I had a company that did the publishing and the gigs and the records for the band, and then I just expanded that for 4 years. But I had a business partner, and he was really lovely and smart and delightful. But my wife and I created 2 cartoon characters called Boowa Kwala, and we built a website, and I decided that I'd rather make cartoons than work in publishing and records. So I sold the company to my business partner, exited, and started making cartoons for kids instead.
All right. So you went from a punk folk band, and then you decided to make cartoon characters.
Yep. For small children aged 2 to 6.
How do you spin that up? I mean, was this a passion of yours or your wife's, or how does this idea pop into your brain that we're just going to develop cartoon characters? And was it that simple? Did you have an idea and just made it happen?
No, well, I actually left the band. Oh, sorry, the band left me, excuse me. And I thought, I'd really like to write some children's songs. So I wrote some children's songs and I recorded them because I had the recording equipment. I had a record company and tried to get the record companies in France to release it. And I couldn't get anybody to do that. So I then said, well, why don't we turn it into a story? So my wife then wrote the story with me and created the characters, and we created these 2 characters, Boowa and Kwala, a blue dog and a yellow koala for some reason, and decided to create a website. So we started a website in 1998 and built it using Macromedia Flash, which then became Adobe Flash and is now defunct, but it was perfect for animating songs. So I put the songs with animations. Then I started building games, and I had a lot of fun building games for children aged 2 to 6. And within 6 months, I was invited by Macromedia to San Francisco to Yukon 99 as one of the best developers in the world for Flash, alongside the BBC, Disney, and whoever produced The Prince of Egypt. So at the time, I'd love to say I was a genius, but actually the level was quite low, and I was just better than most people with Flash, which wasn't. It was an animation tool that had started to move into programming, and the whole logic of mathematics that I had from my degree started to come into play, and I could take the animation tool and make it do things from a programming perspective that nobody else in the world was doing. So I was just lucky that those two skill sets came together at that particular time.
So that easiest degree path that you randomly picked ended up paying off in the end, and you didn't even know it when you took it. That's fantastic. So you grew you ended up growing it into a pretty significant website, and where did it go from there? Did it just run its course, or did you kind of get over it, or how did you, if you, as it grew and got that successful, what ended up happening?
Well, between 2000 and 2008, we built it up with 1,000 games and activities and songs to become the 10,000th biggest site in the world, with 1 billion page views in 2007. And we made a TV series with ITV International that played on Playhouse Disney, and it played in 25 countries. So we were quite successful. And, you know, the Barking Dogs, my band, wasn't known in the US, but Boowa Kwala were very well known in the US. I had people from the US contacting me all the time saying, oh, that was my childhood. That was brilliant. I mean, when you've got 5 million kids a month coming to the website, there's a lot of kids who are going to remember that from their childhood. And that's the biggest achievement I have. I was
going to say that's got to be pretty interesting to just have random people. Yeah. Hey, you were an influential part of my childhood.
I just joined Entrepreneurs Organization, which is an organization, 19,000 people, for entrepreneurs who have companies with $1 million of revenue a year or more. And it's divided into chapters, so basically groups based in countries or cities. And the chapter president here in France, his kids watched Boowa Kwala. And so he spent their childhood with Boowa Kwala. And I met him the other day, and he was saying, wow, that's cool. I'm meeting Boowa in person. I'm meeting the guy who did the Blue Dog. And that's lovely, because that's something that comes back today in the business environment, where it creates a really good vibe in the meeting with somebody where it should be just business, but it's actually very friendly and very warm and welcoming.
Nice. Where did you go after the Blue Dog experience?
Well, I exited that and moved on to digital marketing. And that's how Kalicube happened, is that when people search my name, they would see Jason Barnard is the voiceover artist for a cartoon Blue Dog. And in a serious business digital marketing space, people wouldn't trust me. So I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in deals, because I would go in, negotiate the deal. They'd be saying, yes, wonderful, we're going to work with you, absolutely brilliant. I would give them my business card, the physical business card, and they would just put it on the table and Google my name. And by the time I'd walked out of the building, I'd already lost the deal, and I didn't even know it, because Google was talking about me behind my back. So my personal brand, and indeed my corporate brand, is what Google and AI say when I'm not in the room.
What did someone point this out to you, or was this a aha moment that you had? Were you trying to figure out why you were losing these deals? How did you realize this?
Well, a client of mine who did sign said, we're really happy to be working with you, but we were very close to not working with you. And I said, why? And then they explained this to me, and I realized that this had been happening a lot. So I then sat down and figured out how to change Google's perspective. And that's all we do at Kalicube, is we say, well, to our clients, we say, well, what perspective do you want Google and AI to present about you? They tell us, and then we shift the content online to focus on that, and gradually get Google and AI to understand what the focus needs to be. And so for a career pivot, which is what this podcast is all about, it's relatively easy for us. It takes time, but it's relatively easy for us to pivot the perception of Google and AI so that they present your current brand narrative, the brand narrative that makes you money or moves your career forwards.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. And like you said, for this, I mean, this show, people looking at twists and turns in their career paths. And I look into the guests I interview, and a lot of times you're looking at the 2 or 3 iterations prior what they were working on, because it seems like entrepreneurs are serial entrepreneurs. It seems like they're going to continue to spin up new things, and you kind of catch a label, like you were saying, the guy that voiced the blue dog. So
and you've actually put your finger on it. Our ideal clients are serial entrepreneurs who understand that their personal brand drives business for their current company, makes them money today, that when they have a career pivot, they can take their personal brand with them, and that having a strong personal brand and being able to pivot it quickly is going to make the next project infinitely simpler, infinitely easier to kickstart. And they also understand that search and AI are going to define their legacy. And I think as serial entrepreneurs, we're interested in our legacy, whether it's when we retire or when we die. We want to be sure that the machines are saying the things that we want about us, and that they're saying nice things, good things, positive things, that we made a positive difference in the world. Right. So my current business needs my personal brand because my personal brand drives revenue. My future career pivot will be facilitated by a strong personal brand that I control in search and AI, and my legacy will be defined by search and AI. Those are our ideal clients who are cash rich, time poor. And for people who are time rich and cash poor, download the guides and do it yourself. I'm sharing it because it's fundamentally important to humanity, in my opinion, that we all are aware that what search and AI, Google and AI say about us when we're not in the room is fundamentally important. And that we should, in my opinion, be doing something about it. We should be taking control. And it's surprisingly simple. It really isn't complicated.
It's the whole fear that the machines are going to take over. Well, the machines can only do what we tell them. And, well, at least for now. So why don't we get them talking in a positive light about ourselves? So, Jason, we're kind of coming up on time. This conversation could have went forever. If you want to talk to people about where, like, the website, what they can expect when they work with you, where they can find out more about you, and plug your stuff for a couple minutes, and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. Absolutely, Brian. So for me, fundamentally, like Boowa Kwala, the blue dog and the yellow koala, and like the barking dogs, the punk folk group I was in, I'm here to make other people's lives better. I obviously need to make money, and I've made money my whole life, but not huge amounts of money, in the sense that that's not my aim. My aim is to help people. And this, the Kalicube.com guides, KALICUBE.com/guides. Download the guides, do it yourself, knock yourselves out. I really want to put that power of control of search and AI in your hands and give you the best possible chance of a future where AI doesn't define you. You define yourself, and you educate the AI so that it represents you the way you want. And if you're time poor and cash rich, I'd really love to do it for you. I'd be delighted to help you. And that's our business model. Give it away for free. People who are cash rich, time poor, we can do it for you. Absolutely delighted to help. And, you know, it's going really well for me, and it isn't going to make me phenomenally rich, but it's certainly going to make me feel good about my legacy, which is the third aspect of what we do at Kalicube, is make sure that AI and Google and search represent me in a really positive manner with that message that I just gave when I retire or when I die.
Jason, I think you have a phenomenal product and a phenomenal message at the right time. Maybe it's a little late, but you know, the bell curve, or the exponential growth there, and the changes with AI and search and people going online for everything. I think we're right in the right time for people to be looking at this, if not a little late, but there's plenty of time to rectify what they've done. So eye opener for sure. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully I get to talk to you soon.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Absolutely delightful.